What's up, guys? It's Maddie here from DCLblogger.com. Alright, let's do a market analysis video. Haven't made one of these for a long time. I have made a video, I think just a few days back, and I mentioned that, I've been moving houses and it has been so hectic the last 2 to 3 weeks. Obviously, with the builder contest, there was just so much going on, so I kind of just stayed away from making videos and just focused on doing what I needed to do in my personal life. But anyway, I've got some time, so I'm trying to pump out some of these videos, trying to do a bit of a backlog of some videos. But in this one, let's just go over the market. Let's go over what's been going on over the last, not just a couple of weeks, but the last month. It's just been action, and there's been a different conditions, different what do you call it? Different events have taken place, such as the contest. Bitcoin spiked up. So how have these affected the Decentraland marketplace? So the first thing I like to do, as you guys know, is check out the cheapest parcels. Okay. Last time I made this video, I do remember there was like maybe 10 or so parcels that were under 15,000 mana. Maybe 15 parcels under 15,000 mana, and we were quickly rising to 15,000 mana bottom. But since then, the market has been relatively quiet. Conditions have changed in the sense that the price of Bitcoin has gone up over the last 7 days quite substantially. And subsequently, there's been a lot of people starving of fiat money because a lot of their crypto holdings, a lot of believers in the crypto marketplace have put a lot of their money into crypto, whether it be Bitcoin, Ethereum, or any coin out there. So seeing a large increase in Bitcoin and subsequently mana, like mana also went up quite a lot. I think it was over the HTC partnership, but it went up to like 7.5 cents, or I think it was some other partnership as well. I cannot remember, but it went up to about 7.5 cents from 5.2 cents or something like that. So that was a pretty big increase, and at a time like that, it was interesting to see how the market kind of was affected. And if I open up, if I can bloody find it, but here you can see 12 days ago, okay, this is for the estates. So 12 days ago that happened, where mana went from 5.2 cents to about 7.5 cents, and a lot of people accepted bids that were placed on their lands for a lot cheaper than what the marketplace was selling. And here's an example of one of them. Is this 5 land estate connected to a double main road, and I personally think double main roads sell for around the 30,000 mana mark conservatively. If you want them to sell real quick, they'll sell for between 25,000 and 30,000. But this one, 5-piece estate, 5-land estate, sold for 96,000 mana. So if you go 96,000 divided by 5, you get 19,200 mana, which is pretty damn cheap for 5 double roads, for double road parcels. So yeah, that was really interesting, and you can see a couple of other bids also got accepted, like my one over here. I made a bid on this 6-piece estate. I can't even remember when I did this, when I placed this bid. Looking back, I'm like, why did I pay so much? But this one sold for 115,000 mana, so 115,000 divided by 6 is 19,000 mana a piece. And I guess my mentality was that single land parcels tend to sell for about 20,000 mana. So if I can get this whole estate for less than 20,000 mana a piece, close to Fashion Street and pretty storefront like it's not that far from Fashion District, it's a good buy. But I think it was more of a long-term hold. It wasn't meant to be a flip. I can't really remember the reasons why I even bid on this. I think it was from the successful sale of some of my estates, and I wanted to diversify into other estates in other locations. But anyway, I've got that, and yeah, that's basically what's happened. Some other deals, went through. For example, if we were to open this Atlas view, we scroll up to the top of this 50/50. You can see this piece 26 lands sold for 519,000 mana. Again, that was a bid, I think, that got accepted. 519,000 mana for 26 pieces. So 519 divided by 26 is under 20,000 mana a piece, which is pretty good considering some of these, quite a lot of these actually, 6, 7, 8. 8 pieces are directly connected to a single road. 2 pieces are directly connected to a double road within 50-50, which is at least 40,000 mana in my opinion, each. So that's 80,000 just there. 6, 7, 8. 8 times, say, 25. 8 times 2 is 16. I think 200,000 mana there. So 280,000 mana just there. And obviously all the single parcels that this one has. What I'm trying to say is that was a pretty good buy. Pretty good buy. So if we were to look at the marketplace and we go through some of these sales and try and look for which ones were good purchases and which ones weren't, I feel like a lot of the ones before the 12 days, okay, so like 2 weeks and beyond, 2 weeks and prior, a lot of these deals were pretty normal. Like there wasn't nothing special about it. This is pretty good. 2 land estate sold for 20,000 mana a piece, pretty close to Genesis City, but this one sold for 550,000. 20-piece land, pretty close. 550,000 divided by 20 pieces, 27,500 mana. It really depends on whether you want to flip or you want a long-term hold and really ride out as a proper investment, ride out for a year or two, because the prices differ. Like it's different. For me personally, I like to do a bit of both. I like to flip and invest long-term. Some of my long-term ones I am happy to pay a little bit more because I feel like these won't come around that often. Some of the purchases that I made over the last month or so has been that one there that I just showed, that 6-piece estate. Apart from that, I've been pretty stagnant. I haven't been buying much because I'm waiting for a bit of volume. There needs to be some volume in crypto in general to be confident enough for me to invest more and continue buying and selling or further invest, because without volume, guys, things start to die down and it's a very scary place. Some of these lands sold for pretty good. So these are single parcel lands. Non-fungible has 2 sections for Decentraland. One are single parcels, one's estates. So the ones we looked at previously were estates. These are single parcels. You can see some of these. This one's Dragon City Connected District. So you can see this one sold for 22,000 mana up here, 23,000 mana up here. Different buyers. So I feel like Dragon City seems to have its own niche investors, in the sense that I'm assuming a lot of Chinese investors look to buy a bit of a spot close to Dragon City because it's going to be Chinese themed, right? So these were sold for pretty cheap. I believe these were bidded on as well, which were also accepted. So 16,500 mana for single road parcels. Pretty damn good. 12,500 mana. I think I sold a couple of these. This one was a pretty decent buy. 56,000 mana for this piece here. Very close to 50-50 center. And it has 3 sides connected to the parcel. 56,000 mana. That's on the medium to higher end. I would have loved to get that for 40,000 mana and less. But hey, like it's one of those long-term holds because it's just a great spot. Anyway, I don't really want to go through all of these because it's going to take me a really long time, but let's look at prices. So let's look at what are good prices to pay. Now, cheapest lands at the moment, like I was going through before at the start of this video, seems to be around 11,900 mana. So does that mean that if you can pick up parcels for 11,500 mana, even really, really bad parcels for 11,500 mana, is it a good buy? In my opinion, this ties into volume. This ties into what you think is going to happen in the next week or 2 weeks, or the short term kind of situation of crypto right now. Because the short term situation of crypto is that Bitcoin doesn't really know what it's doing, and it seems like it's rallying, but if we open up this chart, Bitcoin seems to be rallying over the last week or two, and it has made some significant moves. I think it went up from 4,200 to 5,200, so it's gone up quite substantially over the last week or two. But again, like, how does this affect crypto? It affects crypto from my perspective as someone that has holdings in crypto, and at the end of the day, I need to cash out some of my money to use in my move, right? I spent a ton of money moving houses, like buying furniture and all that, like over 10,000, probably over $20,000 was spent. I have to get that money from somewhere, right? And I have my business that gets me a bit of cash flow, but if in the sense that some of my holdings do really well, and I have some major spikes, for example, Mana going up to 7.5 cents from 5.2 cents, or over the last week, a lot of my alt bags have gone up 40, some of them 30 to 40%, right? Even Ethereum, etc., etc. So I mean, like, why not just sell 5% of some of these alt bags and use that for some of my daily living? Which is what I did, and which is what I feel a lot of people are going to do, because they've been starved of fiat money for such a long time that they feel like this is the perfect opportunity when we have a bit of a move like this to cash out. And that kind of ripple effects to Decentraland landholders, because they feel like also, all right, if Mana is sitting at 10 cents, I'm happy to sell my land for 9,000 Mana when that's $900 fiat, right? Whereas right now, at 6 cents Mana, if we were to sell for 11,000 Mana, that's $660. So in terms of fiat, although you're selling it for 9,000 Mana, which is less than market value, when and if Mana goes to 10 cents, it's actually worth more fiat. So I feel like when that kind of a feeling starts to overwhelm some people that may need to cash out, you're going to see some land sold for a little bit cheaper. And there's a lot of people that fall into that boat. So since last video when I made, when we saw about 10 to 12 lands sitting under 15,000 Mana, since then you can see there's 12, 24, 36, 36, 48, 60. There's 60 lands that are under 15,000 Mana, and a ton of land that is under 12,500 Mana. There's like 12, 13, 14, 15, like about 20 or so lands that are 12,500 and below. And I feel like these kind of are walls, like sell walls. You have them in crypto, we have them in exchanges where people just need to cash out, say 200 BTC, so they just put a sell wall of 200 BTC, and a lot of buyers need to eat through that for it to climb higher. And I feel like 12,500 and below is kind of a strong sell wall, because 12,500 and beyond, it kind of rises pretty quickly to 13,500, etc., etc. But yeah, I feel like that, and the only way this is going to get bought up is when there's a bit of volume, right? Because new investors have to see this, have to buy the cheapest ones. And the cheapest parcels are rarely desirable, in the sense that they're not very well positioned. This one's right at the edge, 149, minus 100. Like, these are all very far away from the center, so they're not very desirable. So it's going to take quite a lot of investors to kind of pick these up, or a change in momentum in terms of Decentraland. But that's what's been happening in terms of the market. There's some influences happening, and one really cool thing that's happened from Decentraland is the builder kind of showed the capabilities of what the land is going to look like. So what I've done here is, this is a single parcel of land. Okay, I've added a few different items here, nothing too fancy. Let's put the pool in the middle, put some palm trees on the side, and a little temple-like thing on the side, right? This is just a one parcel. And these are the limitations that we have. We have one parcel being 16 by 16 meters. You can see that it's not that big. It's big enough to have a bit of a hangout. You can probably make some small experience. But, and this is the height limitation too. So there's about 20 meters in height allowable with Decentraland if you have a single parcel. Obviously, the height limitations change over time. Sorry, not over time, but as you have more parcels connected. But for one parcel, you got 20 meters in height allowed to build, which kind of looks like this. Maybe I should increase that a little bit more. This is just really, really rough, guys. So this is, if you think this width is 16 meters, maybe at 20 meters, we should be maybe over there somewhere. Maybe. Okay. So it kind of looks like this, and you can see, you kind of get a perspective of what you might be able to build. Not that much, something pretty small and cozy. Maybe a small hangout with your friends, private area. Maybe a small shop, a car studio or something like that with a few stories. But compare this single parcel with just a smaller estate, but significantly larger than this. It's just a 2x2, which is a 4-piece estate. Okay, so 4 of these parcels joined together. Let's check out what it looks like. So put this, the middle once again, and there you go. Right, that is a lot bigger, isn't it? For me personally, it seems a lot larger. You can build so much more. You can have 4 different sections. Not only that, but check the build height increase. So previously it was 20 meters, and in this as well, I've put a tile, and I have to zoom right out to show you where the tile is, because the build height limitations suddenly increased to about 45 meters when it comes to 4 pieces of joined land. So look at the value you get in the height increase compared to what we had previously. There's so much higher you can build right now. Think of this 4-piece estate, like what you can build. You can build a bit of a triple-story gaming area. You can build a much larger mansion. You can build a much larger shop, if that's what your plans are. More art experiences. You can just do so much more with a 4-piece estate. So the Decentraland builder really showed me personally, and I feel like a lot of other people, it showed the value in estates. And so when it comes to figuring out what good deals were, in my opinion, estates that sold for a decent price, like pretty cheap, for example, this one right here, this 9-piece estate sold for 90,000 mana. That's 10,000 mana a piece for this land, right? That's pretty cheap, because first of all, it's an estate. Second of all, for 10,000 mana, it's much cheaper than the cheapest parcel currently listed on the marketplace. Like if someone was to list, if this guy was to list each of these single parcels for 10,000 mana, or even 10,500 mana, he'd probably get his money back after selling them all. So that's why that's how I like to buy. I like to buy things knowing that if I really need to sell tomorrow, I can get my money back. So this was a really good buy, and the person that bought it flipped it actually. He listed it back up for about 110,000. In a quick 20,000 mana flip, someone purchased it, I think a couple of days after. So he made a quick 20,000 mana profit. At 110,000, it was still a pretty good buy. 12,200 mana. It's pretty cheap to get per parcel a 9-piece estate. That's for that cheap per parcel. And you know what? The person that bought this, I was talking to him through email, and they specifically wanted a 9-piece estate. And we were just talking in terms of whether I was willing to sell some of my 9 pieces estates. But the person that bought this actually wanted it to build something. So he was inspired by the builder contest and specifically wanted this piece to build what he had in mind. And that's the type of investors and the type of owners in Decentraland that we need. And I was a bit nervous with the Decentraland contest coming out, because this is going to be the first time after a couple of years of Decentraland being in development, the first time where the people that have invested in land will actually start to see the utility of this land. And will that utility, or will that keep up with what people had in their minds? Will that be at the same standard or better for people to continue buying these lands? That was a bit of a risk, a bit of a hurdle I felt that Decentraland needed to take. Now the land market blew up. Will the expectations of what the builder allow people to build meet those expectations? And seeing people buying land and buying estates to build specifically after the builder contest is a lot more reassuring to me. Shows me that the demand now is coming from people that want to build, which is good. And I'm very excited about that, and confident in my heavy land investment. But yeah, that's that. Let me just go through some of the parcels out there that might be good deals really, really quickly. I don't want to spend too much time in this video. Single parcel lands, if you can buy them under 10 to 11,000 mana, and you can buy them doing, bidding on land separately on the marketplace or negotiating with people one-on-one. But if you can buy single pieces of land close to the center, obviously the better. But I'd try and pick them up for under 12,000 mana. I wouldn't be spending any more than 12,000 mana unless it's a decent spot. Like for example, I'm not saying this because it's mine, but I'm saying like for example, if this land, because it's in a bunch of districts, if it was closer like over here, it'd be obviously a much better buy for 13,500 mana. But I feel like I personally would buy single parcels for about 10 to 11,000 mana, right? Any more than that, you can only get that by bidding, but who knows? I always feel like opportunity is always going to come by, so hopefully some people may sell for that price. I feel like that's the bottom, and the bottom isn't just what the cheapest parcel is. The bottom is really what people are willing to jump on as soon as it's listed. So just because this is 11,800 mana, 880 mana, doesn't mean that if you were to list for 11,500 mana, that you would get a sale straight away. Now, if I were to list for 10,500 mana, probably it would sell pretty quickly, which makes me think that the bottom is somewhere between 10 and 11,000 mana. Mind you, this is coming off a pretty quick increase from about 8,000 mana, where lands were about 8,000 mana about a couple of months ago, and it quickly rose to about 12,000 mana in the span of a couple of months. The time leading up to the builder contest. So this is it rose pretty quickly to 12,500 mana. So it's kind of a bit of a pullback right now, and a bit of a stagnant period. Estates, again, I feel like, this 4-piece estates that we have, this is the cheapest 4-piece square estates that we have on the marketplace. 44,000 mana, that's about 11,000 mana a piece, not too bad at all. This one over here, 45,000 mana. I feel like this is a pretty good buy as well, because it is, first of all, it's less than 12,000 mana a piece. And it is close to a district. So the more reasons there are to buy a specific land, the better it is as an investment, because this one is close to this Dragon City. It's a 4-piece estate. It's under 12,000 mana a piece. For me personally, it's a decent buy, but I'm not going to buy it because I have way too much land. So I'll try and get it even more cheaper. But just looking at the marketplace at the moment, just trying to see which ones are a decent price to pay. If you're a new investor, guys, make sure you're utilizing this bid functionality. You can bid on land and hopefully get it cheaper. For example, this person has bid 25,000 mana. That's 12,500 mana a piece. That's pretty cheap considering a road land somewhat close to Genesis City. I would say that's worth at least about 16 to 18,000 mana, and obviously the single parcel is probably worth about 13 to 15,000 mana. Let's just say 13 and 15,000 mana. So I'd say this is worth at least like 30k mana, right? So this guy's put a bid for 25,000 mana. You can make sure you're bidding, because if someone accepts your bid, you can get it for much cheaper than what it's listed. And now Decentraland kind of shows everyone's bid. So you can see if you click on a specific piece of land, let's see, what should we click on? This one. Were people putting bids on this one? This one, someone's bid 40,000 mana. This one, someone's bid 170,000 mana. This one over here, this massive piece, look at all these bids: 700,000, 1 million mana, 40,000 mana. So you can kind of see what you're competing against, and if you want that, you can bid a bit higher and hope that that person sees it and accepts. But yeah, that's about it, guys. We have right now the Decentraland contest is over, and I feel like this year is going to be full of contests, because remember, Decentraland have about, I don't know, about 1,000 pieces of land that they've reserved for giveaways and contests and incentivizing people that build and provide value to Decentraland. So I feel like this year is going to be a lot of contests, a lot of building on content, and I feel like Decentraland have also understood that they need to move faster, because VR is at its infancy at the moment, but the worlds around Decentraland are also progressing at a very fast rate, and we need content, basically. So with that in mind, with all these contests coming up, I feel like we're going to have a huge influx of developer activity, of artists, of people that want to build experiences in Decentraland. So it's going to be exciting how that ties in with crypto kind of going all over the place, Bitcoin rising, Bitcoin falling, what's going to happen. It's just so much to consider. It's very difficult because there's so many variables, but we'll see how we go. But that's it, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will see you guys in another one.